right, fellas. It is Super Bowl week. We are live here on Foolish Club Media. And I would ask, please, like and subscribe. All right, please don't be selfish. Please don't be rude. Please like and subscribe. You're on YouTube. Get to YouTube, like and subscribe. That's how you help us. And we greatly appreciate it. If you don't like and subscribe, you're just hateful. I'll be honest with you, and I think we should get away from that hate. But I'm live. I'm here in San Francisco. I'm at the Super Bowl. Been doing Radio Row. The most fun interview I've had all week was with Kat Cora, the Iron Chef. I had a blast talking with Kat Cora, and I think I forgot we were both where we were. Because I wanted her to give me the rundown of why we don't have Iron Chef anymore. Because that was I mean, I grew up on. That's where I fell in love.
Iron Chef a lot.
I fell in.
I watch TV like that these days, but I used to crush Iron Chef.
Oh, I fell in love with Bobby Flay there. I'm a Michael Simon guy because of Iron Chef, and they have just taken that from us. Yep, I went over with Kat Cora. I went overtime. I made Byron Young and Colby Turner, the defensive linemen. Maybe the Chiefs should look at those as a template of what they could do to their defensive line. I made them wait, and because I wasn't done with Kat Cora.
So, the irony is Kat Cora is far more interesting than either of those two individuals to me.
Well, yeah, we gotta pause from Colby Turner. He said, I usually only like to do it with one hand. Then he said, pause. So,
okay, maybe he's a good interview.
And Byron Young, because they came over with some chicken wings, and Bounty was their sponsor, whatever they were pushing, and he tried to eat a chicken wing with one hand, and he said, I usually like to just take it down with one hand. Pause. And that's where that was. But no, man, it's a good time here. And I think
you guys an hour away, by the way. I just logistically, out of curiosity, you guys are like an hour away from where everything's actually happening with like practices and media events and all that stuff, right?
Media events. No, media events, most media events are at the huge convention center. So like Radio Row, all that stuff.
Or like now the interviews with the actual players.
Oh, so that was at the stadium, which is
like an hour away, right?
So speaking of that, let me get this in before we get going here. They have a media party every year, and I see our guy Pete Sweeney there all the time, 3 buttons down. And by the end of it, he was down a 4th.
Yeah.
But
he likes to show off some chest hair when he gets saucy.
Real time sell it. But it was pretty good. They had it at F1 building in Vegas. They had it at a real cool spot in New Orleans. This year was the worst it's ever been. Had the EA Sports building, and they had to take our asses damn near to San Jose on a shuttle that was 45 minutes, and they just didn't have enough space. But they gave us these wristbands when we got in, your wristbands. And so we were in there. We got out. They only had 2 bars. They had 2 bars in the place. I mean, they were all right size. There were 2 bars. For reference point, in Vegas, it was 4 levels. The Jabberwockies were there, one of them. But there was 4 levels, and they had like 8 food vendors and like 4 bars on every level. So anyhow, so I'm like, man, this is like, let's get up out of here the first chance we can get. They're doing shuttles, and this was like when I used to go to the casino from Nashville. Hey, the first one ain't leaving until 9:30, so you got to wait. So we waited out, and we got right on. And I get home, and I get to the hotel, and I got the thing that they give us, the wristband. But it's not like the wristbands that we were used to that you could flip over and rip off. No, this one was like the cloth one that almost looked like it was what are those things that tighten? What are those called? The killers use, or or
Zip
FBI.
ties.
They almost were like zip ties, almost. But it was cloth.
You obviously haven't been to a lot of music festivals. Music festivals.
Yeah, very those.
Oh,
They're those. I've had them before. I couldn't grab the name. So I get back and I've had a few here. All right. I'm a little intoxicated. And I go to, try to pull it to rip it off, and I'm doing nothing but tighten it. And every time, I don't know what's going on in my head, but every time I'm doing this, but I'm in a hotel room, so I'm tightening, and now I've got to this point where I'm cutting off circulation. Like it is become so tight, like I can get a pinky, and so I'm just looking. By the way, I had gone and stopped at a place and got short ribs from and so
cut it with the jagged rib bone.
So I'm trying to take bites. I'm taking bites and still trying to figure out, but I'm taking bites in between. And then here, I'm gonna go grab it right here. And the best thing that I could find was the ice.
Oh my God!
And it's got some sharp. If you could take a look at here, it's got some sharp edges. And I'm trying
This
to
can't be sharp.
I'm trying to rip it off. Listen, I threw it away. I tore it up to shreds, but nothing's working. I'm trying to pull it off. And everything I'm doing, BK, is making it tighter. It's just
you don't say.
And now like I'm starting to lose a little feeling. And then at this point, and then every time I was unsuccessful with this, I would stop. And the fat portion of my life would take over, and I would stop, and then I would take a bite of short rib in between. As like a I would say an intermission, as you will, and then I found the plastic silverware they gave in that, and there was a knife in there. So I'm trying, and it's nothing. I finally had to make the call to go down the front desk. Now, mind you, I've gotten in here, I've taken my pants off, I'm in socks, so now I got on pajamas, and so I got on my pajamas. And by the way, as I told you guys off air, we're staying in the hotel of the Pro Bowl. So all the players that are at the Pro Bowl are at our hotel. I come down the stairs. I'm in my pajamas. All right. I come down and when I say pajamas
like the shorts, like the
shorts. No, but I got real pajamas. I went out and purchased the short pajama set. You know that you see me wear the shirt on the nightly fix.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
And I got the shorts. Yeah, I got that. I'll walk my ass down there. And I am certain that Quentin Williams was sitting in the lobby as I was and I walked to the front desk and I say, "Ma'am, I'm in a real bad place." I'm like, "You wouldn't happen to have any scissors or a knife or something?" I said, "This thing is cutting off circulation. I'm bleeding like off some of the cut parts here." And she's like, "Well, here, let me see if I can wedge these scissors in here." So we try to wedge the scissors, and it's just getting tighter. And finally, we just worked at it. And that lady at that front desk saved my life, I believe, because there was, the state I was in. Okay, I'm about 6 whiskey and diets down. All right, the state I'm in, I'm like, I'll just go to sleep and take care of it. And then something grabbed me to say, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And I walked up here, and it was a fight back for my life. I mean, that's something I'll never forget on this trip.
I'm just trying to imagine, like, you walked past the front desk to get to your room, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't tightened yet. I hadn't done the dumbassery to tighten it yet.
The crazy part to me is that you didn't just immediately go to the front desk and say, "Ma'am, can you please use scissors to take this off of me?" Instead,
I had it.
Let's tighten it more first. I will get to the point where I can't feel my fingers any longer. I will go down and ask for help.
I didn't know that I was doing it. I didn't know I was tightening it until I got in it. And then the pride factor is I can get myself out of this.
So you've seen the video by now of John Gruden and Rich Gannon on the street, right? On Twitter.
Yes. By the way, Rich Gannon looks 10 times older than John Gruden.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But everybody's basically saying the same thing. That's just football guys being football guys. What Ron did is men being men. It's stupid as hell. And yet there's just something in your brain that can't possibly fathom the idea of I can get this off. I can get this
Bro,
off.
I can win. I'm not going to lose.
And then you get yourself to a place where you're like, not only am I not going to succeed on this, I'm going to die. And so the only thing
it was getting tight. Like it was getting tight. Like I couldn't hang on. I couldn't. Yeah, that was rough. But that's my Super Bowl story. San Francisco. But if we take this to the Chiefs and look at this, this is the spot that they're normally in. We're normally used to them being in this spot and telling wristband stories is something that we don't have time to do because they're playing in the Super Bowl. This year they're not. And when you look at Seattle and New England, I don't think anybody picked that as the Super Bowl before the season started. And I think it is a interesting thing to look at and say to yourself, all right, what did those teams have that the Chiefs are missing? It's a weird year, right? But what do those teams have that the Chiefs were missing this year? Because we established it last week. We talked about it. I believe the Chiefs can get right back to the space that they have been when we look at the field and everybody's playing. I don't think there's any great teams. All right, Seattle may be close, maybe, but I don't think there are any great teams. But what is it that these two teams that got all the way to the spot that the Chiefs are normally at? Because I have an idea in my mind, BK. I'm curious if we're on the same wavelength.
So can we start with the Patriots? Because I think they're kind of different conversations, but can we start with the Patriots on this?
Yeah. Do whatever the hell you want to do.
People aren't going to like my answer. People are not going to like my answer on this. I think theirs is almost entirely schedule related.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I don't think they're that much better of a football team than the Chiefs are. I really don't. I think that they got a really advantageous schedule this season that allowed them to rack up a lot of wins. I'm not trying to diminish what they did. They deserve credit for beating the teams that were placed in front of them. They got the job done. The Chiefs did not. But I think if you switch schedules this year, the Chiefs are basically the team that the Patriots were this year. I also think, though, if you want to get down a little bit more into the nitty-gritty, it's the depth along the defensive line. They had a much better pass rush than the Chiefs did this year, and that's really the one thing that they did at if you want to call it elite level, I could get there with you. Like Chason, Landry, Barmore, Milton Williams, and they go.
None of those are spectacular names. None of those are spectacular names. It's just a bunch of guys that are solid.
I think that's part of it, though, and I think that's a similarity, honestly, with the Seahawks.
That's what I was going to say.
When you have that depth, and you have 7 to 8 guys that can all rush the passer capably, it allows you to rotate these guys and keep them all healthy and fresh. And that is something the Chiefs flat out did not have this year. They had 2 guys you can trust at any given time.
It's Milton Williams was a game wrecker this season. He was. He was unhealthy for a good portion of the season, but when he was healthy for the Patriots, he was an absolute monster for their defensive line. And I think in general, they're just a well-coached team. They seem to just be really, really well run. And yes, they had some favors done for them by their schedule. Cause I agree with BK. They had an easy schedule, and then the stars aligned in the playoffs for them to get the best path possible to get to the Super Bowl, but they still made the plays and they still stayed healthy enough to get there and for all of that stuff to work out. But yes, it's the defensive line. It's the bodies that they can throw. And that was, I think, we talked about this team all season until the wheels really started to fall off. And the biggest thing that we discussed every single week after week after week was they can't get off the field on defense. And it's because on third down, they could not rush the passer. They could not create plays in passing down situations to get off the field. And it's what wound up killing them. yeah, Mahomes injury, whatever. I think all of everything kind of fell apart and factored into like how hard they were playing and desperately trying to keep themselves alive this season. But like, if they could have just gotten off the field a few times, they easily would have had like 4 or 5 more wins this season.
Yeah, see, I like the D lines because I was taking both of them, right, and trying to look at what is the similar, like what's the thing, and I think the D line thing was clearly, or their pressure, their ability, like the Seahawks made. I think the Texans
just have so many dudes. Like
I think the Texans were the best defense this year, but I think the Seahawks were a lot closer. And I think it started to come around late. They were a lot closer than other teams were. I think than others maybe thought. But that was the first thing that came to mind. But then the other piece to me is the element of, for whatever reason, the element of Josh McDaniels as the person running the offense, and Drake May and everybody, schedule and everything, but the ability for them to be able to be successful in what they did offensively, and the ability for Clint Kubiak with Sam Darnold and their offense to do, like their offensive play from head to toe was, even in the consistency wise, even in the little good stretches for the Chiefs, their offense was just better week in and week out, something that you knew you could depend on. And that, which is almost surprising because it's Andy Reid and company and Nagy, all of them, that whole group together. And I'm talking about everything before, Mahomes got injured. After all of that was, but they were much better and much more consistent throughout the season and what their offenses, because those are defenses, but really good defenses, but this is not like the Texans where their defense is dragging them. Like those are more complete teams whose offenses, I mean, hell, the Patriots, you think about the Patriots this year before the playoffs started, that was an offensive team. Right. And then you look at the Seahawks, they have the leading receiver, Sam Darnold, had the year. So I think that's the other part. The D lines are very similar, but the consistency offensively from coordinator all the way down, that really stuck out with those two teams.
Yeah, I would say especially for the Patriots, because like you look at that offense, man, who's the player that really sticks out to you? I mean, who is it? I guess Stephon Diggs, but he hasn't even done much, if anything, really this postseason for them. Kayshon Boutte has made a couple of really impressive plays in the postseason, but that's not a guy you really get overly excited about. Hunter Henry's an average tight end. Ramondre Stevenson is a passable running back that just kind of gets what's there for him. Travion Henderson, they don't even trust now that they've reached the playoffs. I think he had 4 snaps in the AFC Championship game. It's kind of Drake May and the guys on the offensive side of the ball. And on the defensive side, it's just so many really solid players. Nobody really outside of Christian Gonzalez, that's a household name, or that you would consider to be, top 5 at their respective position. Maybe Milton Williams is that at this point. But other than that, it's really just Christian Gonzalez. The Seahawks, to me, are a totally different animal. You look at the defensive side of the ball, they've got studs on that side, man. Byron Murphy is awesome. And you look at that secondary, they have 2 or 3 different dudes that could have made a case for the Pro Bowl this season, including a rookie nickel that completely changed the look of their defense. And then on offense, they have the guy that's probably offensive player of the year in Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I think that is another lesson to be learned from the Seahawks in this game. They relied just rising to another level this year. And if you're the Chiefs and you look toward this offseason, that's one of the things that came back to haunt them this year, is that their blue chip talent just couldn't do it anymore. Travis Kelce isn't the same player that he once was. Chris Jones is still really good, but he's not what he used to be. He can't just completely take over games consistently the way that he once did. So who's that next wave of player? Who are those new guys that are going to be able to take on that mantle? I don't think they really have them right now. And that's where that number 9 overall pick becomes so vital this offseason, to be able to hopefully get somebody that can be your Jackson Smith-Njigba, or can come in and be your Byron Murphy or your Nick Emanwari, whoever it is, that completely changes the look of the team.
No, it does. And yeah, but that's the thing is now maybe on the defensive side, they got to get maybe some guys that are comparable to that. But offensively, like maybe not Jackson Smith and hell no, let me not say that, because there's no like Rashee Rice and Jackson Smith-Njigba were in the same vein coming into the season, right? That wasn't a there might have been people who would have thought Rashee Rice may be better. Coming to the season. Now we've obviously seen this dude is like, they were in the same range, and I would even argue Rashee Rice, just because we've seen him in big games, what his start to last year was before the injury. Like I think many people would have thought he was ahead, better. So it's not like they don't have the talent on that side of the ball. Defensively, I think they're probably short in some areas in talent, especially across the defensive line, right? And some of the young guys that maybe have just become misses in the draft. But yeah, they're not that far from some of these guys emerging. Like they had some guys that the Seahawks emerge into who they've become that maybe they didn't foresee happening. And the Chiefs have guys that could potentially do that.
Yeah, I think that's the Seahawks specifically. Like the Patriots, I think, yes, like Drake May is a star, and Vrabel and that staff like made all of the difference in the world. And I think they really coached that team up. But like Seattle is the team that's like, oh, this team's young and talented, and they've got guys that they have drafted and developed, and they're already in a Super Bowl, and they don't even need Sam Darnold to go out there and throw 35 times a game. Like they're just going to punch you in the mouth with their defense. They can run the football, and Sam Darnold is going to be asked to throw the ball 18 to 20 times a game. He'll make a handful of big time throws, and that'll be the difference. And you can't really do anything about it. Like they're a really exciting team, and they're a great example of how things work out when the guys that you draft and develop turn into stars. And a lot of the players on that team have turned into stars, whereas like the Chiefs, while I still think that they have drafted well, and a lot of these guys are still talented, and I think they can still like turn things around based off of what happened last season, maybe they're still lacking in a little bit of the star power that I think the Seattle Seahawks have right now.
Ron, I think it's fair to say that coming into the season, maybe Rashee Rice was viewed kind of similarly to Jackson Smith-Njigba. I mean, they were totally different levels of prospects coming in, though. Yeah. Like Jackson Smith-Njigba in his sophomore year at Ohio State had 95 catches for 1,600 yards. He was the number 1 wide receiver on a team that had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave on it. And then the next guys up were Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. on the depth chart. So like he was a different level than what Rashee Rice was coming in. And then you look at what he had to work with early on in his NFL career. I think he was just held back. I think we now can see this clearly. He was held back by the quarterback level that he had, or that quarterback play rather, that he had around him. So now that he had a competent level quarterback in Sam Darnold, you got to see him really flourish at the NFL level. Rashee Rice isn't being held back by Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice is being helped by Patrick Mahomes. So I think there is a pretty significant difference there. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more here in just a little while, but it does make me wonder, is that a position that the Chiefs should maybe attack more than we had previously suggested?
Yeah. Maybe, but that is something we can get into. Before we get into that, I do want to get to, because you're talking about, I think you're bringing up talent, and I know Serda said they may lack some of the talent maybe that other spots, like just the overall talent, like a Seattle does, like even in New England at certain spaces, just overall talent like that. I think we got to start looking at maybe the most important potential conversation and thing in the offseason. And to me, that is that kind of elephant in the room. How do they handle their 25-year-old, two-time All-Pro, first team All-Pro corner? Right? We start to look, and I've done this for years, so that you know that there are like 5 spots on the field in positions that you look at and you're like, these are the positions that are not only just seem to be more impactful to winning, but they're also harder to find like greatness at. Quarterback, corner is in that group to me. Like a game-changing type of skilled weapon. I think the pass rusher obviously is in that left tackle, but now maybe left and right tackle because guys rush from both sides that are really good. Like those are positions that are the hardest ones to find and impact winning. And cornerback is right up there. You could almost argue at times quarterback or cornerback is as hard outside of quarterback to find in many other spaces, to find a corner that's that good. I feel like when the season start going to hell in a handbasket, and some of that also kind of met at the middle of Trent McDuffie getting injured and then not playing the rest of the way. Like Trent McDuffie, he didn't play from like the 3rd series from the Texans game on the rest of the way. And it feels like a lot of people saw a little bit of Noah Williams, saw Watson, saw some of the guys and thought, hell, even saw Fulton get some time and thought, well, maybe it's time to see what you could get out of Trent McDuffie. Can you get multiple premium picks? Can you get another first-round pick? Can you get a 1 and a 2? I don't think you get what Sauce Gardner got, but who knows? I think you at least get a 1, maybe a 1 and a 3, something like that. Can you get multiple premium picks to help this roster? Y'all still got that as a priority, making a move on Trent McDuffie?
I can speak for myself. I do. I think it's the move that dictates the offseason to me. Like that's the way that I would frame it is if you decide not to make that move, you have less capital to do a bunch of other stuff because it impacts what you have in terms of cash and cap because you're probably going to have to extend him sooner rather than later. It also impacts what you can do in the draft because if you do decide to trade Trent McDuffie, Ron, I think it's going to be a little less than what you're suggesting because another team's going to have to then extend him to maybe not market setting money, but you're talking close to $100 million for a cornerback for the team that ends up trading for him. So I think you'd probably get something closer to like the Tyreek Hill deal, maybe a little less than that. And you're talking 2nd round pick is probably like the premium pick that you get in return. That's my guess.
Would you do it for it too?
I probably would. Yeah. I think what you're looking for is kind of the equivalent to an early 2nd, late 1st round draft pick in terms of the overall capital, however the team is able to put that together. And I don't know if Trent McDuffie either can or wants to play in the slot long term. I don't think he's good enough to be paid at that level as an outside corner. And I think you have alternatives out there. You've got Christian Fulton, who looks decent down the stretch. You've got Noel Williams. You could potentially bring back one of your other corners who is hitting the market this offseason, and Jalen Watson. I saw Pro Football Focus has him projected at a 3-year, $45 million contract. That's like half of what you could probably project to see from Trent McDuffie. I would just trust that more. I would feel more comfortable with that, especially given how many other places this team needs to upgrade on the roster. It's going to be hard to do with the amount of capital they currently have available, both with cap and draft selections. This is the one way that you could really kind of have a get out of jail free card to continue to infuse more young talent and to have more cash to spend elsewhere on your roster.
Serda, I don't know about you. I'm going to feel if they don't get a 1 out of that, like that hurts me. That one's hard.
Yeah, I think I do think that the Colts inflated that a little bit, like with the Sauce Gardner deal. Like they overpaid because it was like it was just Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen being like, "Oh, this is our window. Like we're the best team in football." And then obviously that all collapsed, and now that trade looks like it was just a terrible move. But they overpaid, I think. I don't think that there's many cornerbacks in the league that you're going to get like that type of high end draft capital for. And as much as I love Trent McDuffie, I don't think you're going to get close to anything like that for him. Like you could maybe get that for like Patrick Surtain Jr., Devon Witherspoon, maybe like those types of guys.
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah, I don't think that. But
Trent McDuffie, I think if you could get a late first round pick for it, great. I'm so conflicted about the idea of it though, too, because then it's like we sit here and we talk about the Chiefs trying to draft and develop and find star players and things like that. And then you're talking about one of the best players that Brett Veach has ever drafted and just moving on from him. But it's kind of the situation that they're in. He's the most valuable piece that they could move off of right now and probably get enough in return that it'll help jumpstart this thing, because I don't think that they have enough resources right now to fill every hole on the roster. So I do kind of feel like you're backed into a corner where it's just so obvious to everybody this is probably the best thing for the Chiefs to do as an organization, even though I do love Trent McDuffie as a player, and I kind of hate to see him move to another team.
I think it's a unique situation because everything that you look and believe in tells you draft. This is what you do. You want to draft a player in the first round, and you want said player to be drafted at a premium position, and then you draft that said player, and that said player in his first years of being a part of you, he's been here, 4 seasons, and you look at it and you say, what has he done since he was drafted 21st overall in the first round? And mind you, like, this is a team that doesn't get high draft picks all the time. So when they can hit deep like that, that's big. And you got a guy that is a 2-time champion, a first team All-Pro in 23, a second team All-Pro in 24. I mean, this is what, at 25 years old, he's 25, right? This is what you hope to do and develop, is you get a guy like that is 25 and bam, let's do it. But this is such a unique situation that it feels like they have such other needs that you usually want to take care of a player like that. But if you take care of a player like that, that absolutely cripples you in your opportunity to be able to fix the number one thing, and maybe the one thing on that defense that's more important than what he does.
Also, you have more alternatives already on the roster at his position than you do at those other positions that we're talking about, right?
I'll be honest with you, BK, I don't feel good about Christian Fulton. And maybe I should feel better. But I mean, Noah Williams is the one that has me feeling better and what they could maybe draft.
Also, sure. I like Jalen Watson. Chiefs have gotten an incredible return from Jalen Watson. That screams like the type of contract that he's like never going to like work out on his second deal.
Then you draft the next Jalen Watson, right? That's the other thing that I would say here is the Chiefs have done a really good job of finding the next one, whoever that may be, whether it's Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie, or all of the guys before them. They've done a really good job, especially with this defensive staff in place, of L'Jarius Sneed or the next 4th or 5th round pick that comes in, starts immediately, and gives you 4 good years on a rookie contract. That's the other thing you could potentially do here as well. And if you're looking at it, I'm looking at the top paid corners in the NFL right now. I don't think he's getting Sauce Gardner money. I don't think he's getting Derek Stingley money. I don't think he's necessarily getting J.C. Horn, Jalen Ramsey, or Patrick Surtain money. Those are all in that $24 to $25 million range. But maybe you're probably talking about like Deron Bland as the bar to clear for Trent McDuffie. He is on a $90 million contract. $22.5 million per year is what he's currently making. I think if I'm Trent McDuffie's agent, I would say 23 mil is the starting point. That's where we can begin discussions, and then we can go from there. The Chiefs may say, no, we want to be closer to like the Marlon Humphrey deal because he's a guy that spent a decent amount of time in the slot. And if I'm his agent, I say, no, we're not doing that. That deal was done too long ago. That's no longer the market. The market has now gone up.
No, everything I just rattled off, they're not coming down.
Exactly. So you're getting ready to pay 23 mil a year and $40+ million guaranteed to a cornerback. And that means money into that third and fourth year potentially guaranteed to Trent McDuffie. I don't know, man. That is the kind of thing that with Chris Jones still on the roster, with George Karlaftis already signed long-term, with Patrick Mahomes making what he's making, you have to make tough choices. You can't sign everybody, especially not to $20+ million AAV deals. To me, I know this sounds disheartening if you're a Chiefs fan. I kind of think this is a no-brainer. I think this is the kind of move that you have to make this offseason to reset things and to put yourself into position to get the next era of Chiefs football in line once again. This is what they had to do with Tyreek Hill to set up the 2022 draft class that ultimately became a dynasty for the Chiefs. The next time, the next option for you to do this is right now, and the chip that you have to play is Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, by the way, I've been thinking this. You think it might be harder to trade than you would think somebody who is 25 years old that has multiple all-pro seasons under their belt?
What do you mean in terms of like getting the compensation that you're hoping for?
I wonder if his market is going to be as big as his resume says. Like, I think the reason why the Chiefs are probably in the thought of this is, man, I don't know if he can play outside corner at the level that you need, right? I wonder, and that's why you're coming down to the second round pick, which I think like his resume and age does not say second round pick. Right? But
it's just the size, and it's just going to be that if you can poke any hole in his game, it is always that he struggles with big, strong wide receivers. Like, that is where he gets beat. And that has been his problem since he's come into the NFL. And he's still pretty good, like, against those guys. It's just that when he does get beat, he gets beat by those kinds of players.
That Cowboys game, that's one that may hurt, like, big time, and not just hurt him, but hurt the Chiefs' chances. It was just seen by everybody, and it really like highlights the problem potentially. And that's not the only game he's had. And I think that's a fair thing, Serda, is now guys will watch the tape clearly if they're going to make the move. But like he's been all right in those matchups, but he is a weapon out of this world in the slot. And I'm with you. I think they got to move that. Speaking of that, because I think they've got to find a way to get cheaper in some spots and maybe not paying a guy. When you pay a guy that type of money, like, you see who's making that type of money on this team, and it's guys that they feel like are going to be big time. And because what did you say? They got Chris Jones long term. They got Patrick Mahomes on their team. He's going to make money, right? They got their guards, their guard and their tackle are the highest paid players at their positions. Karlaftis has gotten himself around the 20-a-year range. Yeah, yes, I said they got their guard and their center who are the highest paid players at their positions, right? And like I think this is clear unless something happens. Like, I mean, this is down the line, but I mean, Josh Simmons is probably going to get signed, right? Like you got other ones that you can kind of see coming down the hatch. You signed your middle linebacker to a decent deal. Right. You're not cheap there. I think they got to find spaces to get cheap. And I know there are some Chiefs fans who are listening to this. You're on YouTube with us. We appreciate you. Please like and subscribe. Please help us out. If you have not do that, hit that little like sign down there. That will help us out a lot. But there are some places you got to get cheap at. And I think a place that a lot of people has their eyes on as a place that needs to be a major resource used, whether that's in free agency, major resource, or the draft, I think is actually a place where they can maybe go cheap. And I think it's receiver. I think a lot of it's predicated with the two dudes they've got here. I don't think Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, that's them. I think obviously we had more belief in what this receiving core was going to be as a whole than it actually turned out to be. And maybe that's several factors. I think injury, I think suspension, all of that played a role in it. But I don't necessarily think, fellas, that this is one of those positions. All right, that is definitely a priority with a major resource and something that just has to get fixed with something that is like a first round pick, a big money in free agency. So, like for me, I don't necessarily if they went with Tate or something there, sure. I see a lot of people putting receiver there. I think that is a space with what they have that they could go cheaper. I think Rashee Rice is better than he played. I think Worthy is better than he played. And hopefully some of the changes offensively help that. But like, I don't necessarily think they've got to go, as we've talked about on here, Alex Pierce level. I think with those two, they could get away with the Tyquan Thornton level of impact. Maybe there's a third round, maybe Royals comes up and plays some more. I don't necessarily think like defensive end, edge rusher, pass rusher, I think needs to have a major resource. Hell, I think it needs to have a major resource in both the draft and in free agency. I think that part is so impactful. Hell, I would say corner maybe, at least draft-wise, maybe something if you're moving on from McDuffie that's important. I think receiver, you've talked about this, and I'll give you a shout out on this because you've talked about this a lot of, like they're going to have to find spaces to get cheap. And I think receiver is one of those spaces where I don't think this needs we got to go get Alec Pierce and pay him $20 million. I don't think this means we got to go and that number 9 pick it's got to go priority wise to a receiver. I don't think that's the case.
So we have the same idea in different conclusions on the wide receiver position. I don't think they can spend there. I looked at Pro Football Focus. They've got their top 50 players for free agency out, and they've got contract projections for each player listed. Now, these are not foolproof. It doesn't mean like this is what every player is going to get, but it gives you an idea of what these players could potentially go for in free agency. Alec Pierce, who you mentioned, Ron, they've got him listed for a 4-year contract. What do you think they have him potentially getting in terms of total money? 4 years, what do you think they're projecting him to get?
4 years, $106 million.
Pretty close. $96 million for Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
Mike Evans, a 1-year, $18 million contract. That all hits on your cap this
1 year. Yeah.
$18 million, ladies and gentlemen. Jawan Jennings, really good player. 3 years, $50 million, $17 a year. Rashid Shaheed, we'll see him in this year's Super Bowl. He's their number 2 wide receiver. I think he has like 100 yards total in the postseason. 3 years, $45 million. Romeo Dobbs, who's good once every 3 weeks. 3 years, $45 million. A really solid player. A nice like number 3 option in a passing game. $45 million. The reason that I bring all of that up is because I agree with you, Ron. I don't think the Chiefs have the money to spend those kinds of resources in free agency on a wide receiver. It makes me, though, that much more interested in taking a wide receiver at number 9 overall because you're saving so much money by not having to dip into the free agency route. And right now, I don't know who this team's wide receivers are going to be in 2027. And you're not necessarily taking a guy at wide receiver at number 9 just because of the 2027 class. Like you have to also think about what's going to happen for this year. But Rashee Rice, I don't trust him right now to be around in 2027. And I'm not sure the Chiefs can either. So for 2026, they might be fine with just Rice and Worthy. I don't know what the next 4 months are going to hold for Rashee Rice, man. He has not shown an ability so far in his NFL career to stay above the fray over the course of an entire offseason. So right now, I would actually say I'm leaning more and more as the days and weeks go on toward drafting a wide receiver at number 9 overall and going quote unquote cheap at the position, but using a major asset to fix that position for 2026 and beyond.
I mean, even though I think Jeremiah Love would be like really fun.
What are we doing here, man?
I would prefer the Chiefs take like Carnell Tate at number 9 than Jeremiah Love, and I would be okay with that. I wouldn't be upset whatsoever. I do think that what's frustrating, and I hope that like the urgency of this offseason is going to change that, because we've seen them do this in years past, just like kind of like, let's see how it plays out and then react to it. And it's not like they can do that this offseason. Like they got to be, when free agency opens, they got to go make some moves and they got to figure some things out, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions roster wise. And I think that we already know a lot of those decisions, and they have to move quickly, and they have to know exactly what they are trying to go do. And then it's all about drafting and figuring it out after that, and finding ways to make sure that this roster is in some ways significantly better than it was this season, because it just wasn't good enough this season, and it's what wound up being a wasted year for them as a franchise.
I think you guys are making some fair points about maybe not spending the free agency in the draft. Again, when I say cheap, obviously like 9 is a major resource. That is a major, major resource with things that I think are especially pass rusher, are the things that, like pass rusher. Hell, you can even hear the argument that safety it's harder. It may be harder for them to find the safety they need later. And I think those are fair arguments, and I think it would make sense. My only thing with that is I think the Chiefs and the draft has shown us that, I know you don't trust Rashee Rice right now, and I think that's very fair, but they have drafted a Rashee Rice. Like they have drafted a Rashee Rice, and they did not draft a Rashee Rice in the first round. All right, they have drafted and brought in, like, help their best guy. Now I don't know he would have been this, but I still don't think Tyreek Hill, if he had not done what he did in college, would have been a first round pick. Right? They found that cat and they drafted him, and he became Tyreek Hill. Right? They found guys like that you could name them that have been productive receivers for them. I don't know where Byron Pringle was drafted, but that guy's was a productive receiver for them.
I don't think he was drafted.
He might not even been drafted. It took DeMarcus Lawrence, it felt like 9 years to get the playbook. But I mean,
Jalen Royals could be DeMarcus Robinson.
Could be. He could be. Now, I still think that you probably need to add something, right? But like they have been able. It's not like their receivers have just come surefire from the first round. That doesn't necessarily mean that they just skip that because they have that kind of confidence. If Tate is the highest player on your board, right, and we got positions and you got him higher than Caleb and or other guys, then by all means take it. I just say they don't necessarily have to use that resource, because we've seen them and we've seen the league find these guys. Like arguably the best receiver in football is Puka Nacua, and the league has found him. Right there, there are other guys that comes about, and from what we just talked about, they may have extra picks that help them if they trade a Trent McDuffie to add to it.
You're totally right. You can find wide receivers later on in the draft. I just think the hit rate that we've seen lately from wide receivers, especially in the top 10, I mean, it's hard to ignore. In the last 5 years, the following wide receivers have gone in the top 12 of the NFL draft: Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Travis Hunter, who kind of a different story entirely, and Ted McMillan. I would say every single one of those guys is, at a minimum, really good at the NFL level. And the Chiefs need to add another really good wide receiver to the mix, because I think we maybe underestimated how hard it was going to be to continue to be the same defense without Chris Jones being that otherworldly talent. I don't want to find out too late what it's going to look like for the Chiefs on offense if they no longer have Travis Kelce. Not just like at the peak of his powers, but just in general. Once they don't have Travis Kelce anymore, what does that look like for Mahomes if he doesn't have another trustworthy option that he can go to at any point? Those guys I just mentioned, most of them are that for their respective teams. The Chiefs could desperately use that for 2026 and beyond. And so I think it's the case that I would be making right now if I was in that draft room to say, hey, there are 2 or 3 wide receivers that people seem to believe are worthy of this pick. Why wouldn't we go in this direction when we can see what it can do for your team? Look no further than what happened to the Seahawks, right? Like, look at, I know where they got him is different, but look at what that Rams offense looks like with an otherworldly wide receiver with Puka Nacua out there. Look at what the Bengals offense looks like at its best when they've got Jamar Chase out there with Joe Burrow. Let's go ahead and reignite this offense. Get those fireworks that Ron's been talking about now for 3 or 4 years. Let's get them back on the offensive side of the ball by improving the talent around Patrick Mahomes once and for all.
And that was unnecessary how you brought that up. Like in the way you said that, the fireworks that I've been talking, like the way you said it, that you've been talking about for 3 or 4 years. The way you said that was just a little too much. All right, like
I had to bring it all back together. I'm using your argument for me, you know.
Whatever, man. All right, man. Now they got some decisions to make. I think a lot of people are scared off of what they watched last year, and there's a thought of that. Because obviously Juju can come and go, right? Like the Jujus, we know Hollywood's not going to be here. But the reason why people have such concern about the receiving corps is those 2 guys. And I don't think that is representative of what they are and who they're going to be. Now, the trust factor, I can't do nothing with you, with Rashid. That is there. That story just went away, didn't it? That is there for you. I mean, we just done with that? That's out? All right. Okay. So we'll see, but it's a big season for him and Worthy. There have been clear changes, right? Hell, it feels like Andy's the only one that was still here last year on the offensive staff that's back, it feels like. So there have been some clear changes, and we'll see what that looks like. We are out.